Factors influencing human resource department plays usually very important role in areas like both external and internal factors. Usually, we call external factors are those factors which lie outside of an organization, wherein which we can easily say that those are all uncontrollable factors. And when we say the other type of factors like internal factors, which are those factors which lie within the organization, or we can say that it is a factor which can be easily controlled within those organization. When we look at HR department, it usually it plays a very important role in areas such as the manpower planning, employee and labor relations, training and development, legal issues which are pertaining within their organization. And we can also say that it is not directly involved in the production of goods and services. Many a times we see HR may be seen as a separate function apart from the day-to-day operations of a business. But still, we give a HR department with more weightage when we compare with the other department, which can make a real difference to the success of an organization. And an HR department typically comes across a number of internal and external factors, a part which is considered as a part of its day-to-day functions. And when we talk in terms of external factors, perhaps the main function of HR department usually retains with the maintain of adequate staffing uh, through workforce planning. And the other factors that majorly influence with respect to HR, human resource management, is the ability to recruit quality candidates in the labor market, whichever talent that is available, which is affected by something like unemployment rates, number of qualified individuals, and so on and so forth. But still, an organization might always face difficulty in identifying and attracting suitable candidates, especially if they have same skill sets which are in demand throughout the industry. And when we look at the company's geographical location, that may be also an important factor with respect to attracting larger labor pool, which is not that much largely enough with respect to those employment areas. But still, as an HR manager, uh, most of the organization always need to put their focus towards recruiting right kind of individuals for right kind of job, which always should motivate them, if at all if they want to relocate from other places. They always expect appropriate packages, which always encourages a qualified staff to take up a particular position. And apart from that, when we talk of the external factors, we always tend to look at something like the government regulations with respect to both federal as well as the state laws, which usually plays a very prominent role with respect to influencing the human resource management regarding acquiring human resource and ensuring that company will have all the compliance with respect to the regulations that is being put across by those governmental agencies. And regulations can also have a major influence on how a company goes about something like hiring, training, uh, taking or looking across the compensation aspects, and even with respect to maintaining the disciplinary aspects that it always tries to impose on its workers. And most of all, it is one of the important prospective which usually would be looked upon various organization when we look at recruiting those individuals. When we are talking with respect to the government regulations or the compliances, uh, we can definitely bring across one of important examples that may be adequate to have a better understanding with respect to how external factors will have a major influence. If we look at Americans, they have an act called as a Disabilities Act, which in many cases it creates the need for the company to modify their office configurations or to provide other reasonable accommodations for the individuals with disabilities, like providing lift facilities or a moving chair, or to provide them proper transportation facilities, or having an in-house arrangement so that their movements are totally restricted. So all these are one of the important things that usually government always would tend to pass those things as an act. And when we look at internal factors, we always tend to look at the various things that are usually existing outside of the organization, like something like organizational culture, trade unions, so on and so forth. And companies always experience aggressive growth and rapid expansion, and it always requires its HR department to have a key focus on the staffing. And the more stagnant the companies may place a greater focus on efforts on how they could able to retain the quality employees. And in turn it always helps the company's culture to have a greater impact on enhancing the workplace environment through some of the various upgradation of their job descriptions, or having a very lucrative compensation and fringe benefits programs. And these and are all keenly keeping an eye on something like the downsizing. Usually companies may have to take the regrettable decisions in the context where they might lose some of its staff, but this is not often taken as an important factors when we look at the organization strategy, which is a part and parcel of most of the companies. If take for example, if a country is going through a recession or if a market is slowing down, it could be a great strategy for an organization to adopt something called as a downsizing, because we can't say that it is the organization culture which is impacting them, but it is purely a part and parcel of their the company strategy. So as long as company is not doing well, it doesn't make any sense for the company to retain all their employees. So in that situation, we have something like trade unions who can come in at any point of time, and they can show a lot of resistance with respect to downsizing, because the main agenda of having trade unions is to protect the interest of employees. And if any employees are getting themselves impacted with respect to their rights and responsibilities, it is a core objective of any of the trade unions to safeguard the interest of their fellow employees, as well as to act as a bridge between the employer as well as the employees. So when we look at all these things, it remains as the biggest challenge for the organization, how to balance both the factors, which has a major influencing factor with respect to management of human resource. And we can also put our focus towards the various HR competencies, which we can say that it is a need of an hour. Nowadays, we see skills are the only thing where companies are looking at, but they are least bothered with respect to looking at your academic records and so on and so forth. So they want to see how an employee can demonstrate his or her uh, level of expertise with respect to showcasing the skill sets what they possess. And apart from that, when we look at even the knowledge competency, we are relating towards something like how much of knowledge they could able to accumulate, and at what point of time they could able to disseminate those things. That is also one of the biggest competencies what companies always look at. And apart from that, companies would also like to have a focus towards something like self concepts, which are mainly focusing on three important factors, that is attitude, values and self image. These are we can call it as it is amalgamation of all these three things which companies always look at with respect to an individual. And we can say that it is like a mirror for an individual to showcase that he possesses all these three important aspects. And later on we are also focusing towards something like the traits and motives which always determine the way how we behave in certain situations, and how we are calm and composed with respect to dealing in some crisis situations. That is also an important trait what an organization looks at. And apart from that, to have a very good behavior, they should have some driving motives behind it, because overnight you can't change any individual's behavior, but it is their own instincts which usually makes them very strong physically or mentally. There is no point in shouting for unnecessary things, but it makes a lot of sense to show your professionalism and to show the maturity. How well you are able to control your emotions with respect to speaking with the fellow employees, or as a leader, you should be as a role model, so that people should come and see you rather than they should not uh, try to make a fun of you, that your least tolerance towards something like controlling your emotions and all. So that shows that the leader doesn't possess that sort of skills, but even in spite of having that position, that makes him like something we can't put any words to such things. So all these things are a key things which usually would be looked at with respect to the competencies pertaining to the HR aspects.